He was fired from his first acting job because his Adam's apple was too big. Then he went on to become one of the most powerful and feared men in Hollywood. Now, at 94, Clint Eastwood is still directing movies while a whole new generation is just finding out about his wild life. This is the story of how an actor who was told he was too old 40 years ago became an unstoppable force of nature.
The scrappy beginning. Clint Eastwood wasn't supposed to be a movie star. Most people think he came from a tough working-class background, but that's not true. He was born on May 31st, 1930, weighing over 11 pounds, so big that nurses called him Samson. His family was wealthy and lived in an affluent part of Piedmont, California. They had 2 cars, a swimming pool, and a country club membership. But even with all that money, Clint didn't have an easy time. School was a constant struggle. He failed junior high and had to repeat a grade. He was a troublemaker, more interested in cars and girls than homework. He was even asked to leave Piedmont High School for infractions that included burning an effigy on the school lawn. Many of his friends thought he never officially graduated. There was one thing that hinted at the artist inside him. He could play the piano like a pro. He would practice until his fingers hurt, learning complicated pieces that most teens wouldn't bother with. That same intense focus would one day help him write the music for his own films. After high school, he didn't jump into acting. He took on some pretty wild jobs, including working as a logger in Oregon, where a single wrong move could get you killed. Then he got drafted into the Army. In 1951, he was a passenger in a Douglas AD-1Q dive bomber that crashed into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. The crash wasn't the end. He had to swim over 2 miles through freezing, shark-infested waters to survive. He later called it stark terror. That experience stuck with him. Years later, when he starred in Escape from Alcatraz, he used that exact memory to make the cold water scenes feel real. His acting career didn't start with a bang. In 1955, he landed a tiny, uncredited role in a low-budget monster movie called Revenge of the Creature. He played a nervous lab technician named Jennings, whose big moment involved losing a rat. The director hated this scene and made him do it over and over. He only had 28 lines, and it took 15 takes to get it right. He was paid a measly $75 a week, and the studio nearly cut his scene entirely. Nobody on set had any clue that this awkward guy fumbling with a lab coat would go on to become one of the biggest stars in film history.
The outsider who won. Clint Eastwood's journey to stardom was anything but conventional. He wasn't a Hollywood golden boy, nor was he groomed for success by the studio system. He was, by all accounts, an outsider, a quiet, lanky actor with an offbeat style who struggled for years to find his footing. This very struggle, this identity as a maverick, would ultimately become the foundation of his cinematic legend. His early career was a grind. He spent years in bit parts, small roles in forgettable B-movies, and a handful of television appearances. Hollywood, with its focus on polished leading men, didn't quite know what to make of him. He was often told his acting was too understated, his demeanor too laconic. Yet it was this very quiet intensity that would later captivate millions. His breakthrough finally came on television in the long-running Western series Rawhide, where he played the amiable cowhand Rowdy Yates. While the show made him a recognizable face, it was far from the kind of leading man role that would make him a star. Eastwood felt constrained, limited by the show's episodic format and the predictable nature of his character. He yearned for more challenging material, but the opportunities simply weren't there. While other actors his age were landing roles in major studio pictures, Eastwood was taking a different path, one that would prove to be a masterstroke. He found his opportunity not in Hollywood, but across the Atlantic. It came from an unlikely source, a visionary Italian director named Sergio Leone. Leone was an outsider in his own right, creating a new brand of westerns in Italy that were more gritty, violent, and morally ambiguous than anything Hollywood was producing. He saw something in Eastwood that American casting directors had overlooked, a rugged individuality and an innate sense of stillness that could speak louder than any dialogue. Leone's offer to star in a low-budget Western, A Fistful of Dollars, was a lifeline for Eastwood. He took a considerable pay cut and traveled to Spain to shoot the film. It was a risky move, but it was a chance to escape the confines of his rawhide persona. In this film, Eastwood became the man with no name, a character defined by his silence, his efficiency, and his moral ambiguity. He was a mercenary, not a hero. This anti-hero persona was a stark departure from the typical American Western hero, and it resonated deeply with international audiences. The film's international success was a resounding vindication for Eastwood and Leone. It proved that audiences were ready for a new kind of cinematic hero, one who was less of a shining knight and more of a flawed survivor. The Dollars trilogy, which included For a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, solidified Eastwood's status as a global superstar. He had bypassed the American studio system to become a massive box office draw. He was no longer a struggling actor. He was an icon, but an icon who had built his own path to the top on his own terms. This newfound creative control was a game changer. He established his own production company, Malpaso Productions, which gave him the autonomy to choose his projects and the directors he wanted to work with. He could now star in films that were a reflection of his own independent spirit. This was a direct result of his status as an outsider who had won. He didn't need to conform to the rules, he had created his own. This independence allowed him to collaborate with director Don Siegel on a series of films that further cemented his outsider persona, most notably the 1971 classic Dirty Harry. The film introduced a new kind of cop, a rogue lawman who operates on the fringes of the system, willing to break the rules to get the job done. The character of Inspector Dirty Harry Callahan was controversial, but audiences embraced his no-nonsense approach to justice. The film was a massive success, and for many, Harry Callahan was an extension of the same silent, solitary, and relentless anti-hero that Eastwood had perfected in the spaghetti westerns. Eastwood's journey from a struggling TV actor to a global superstar is a testament to the power of self-belief and refusal to conform. He didn't wait for Hollywood to recognize his talent, he went out and created his own opportunities. He embraced his status as an outsider and, in doing so, created a unique and enduring cinematic legacy. He became the living embodiment of the outsider who won not by playing by the rules, but by rewriting them entirely.
The director who broke the rules. While the world knew Clint Eastwood as a man of few words and a fast draw, behind the camera, a quiet revolution was beginning. The man who had perfected the art of the on-screen anti-hero was about to take on a new and even more demanding role, that of a director. Eastwood's move behind the lens wasn't an act of vanity, it was a natural evolution of his independent spirit. He wanted to tell his own stories in his own way, and he had the wisdom to understand that true creative control meant more than just choosing his acting roles. It meant shaping the entire vision of a film. His directorial debut was the 1971 psychological thriller, Play Misty for Me. It was a risky choice for a first-time director. The film, which Eastwood also starred in, was a tense, chilling story about a radio DJ stalked by an obsessed fan. Rather than starting with a straightforward Western or action film, Eastwood chose a slow-burn thriller that delved into the darker side of human obsession. The film was a critical and commercial success, and it signaled to the industry that Eastwood was more than just a charismatic actor. He was a filmmaker with a distinctive voice. From the very beginning, Eastwood's directorial style was defined by a rejection of Hollywood's established norms. He was famously known for his efficiency and his no-nonsense approach on set. He eschewed the bloated budgets and endless takes that were becoming common in the industry. His sets were famously calm, focused, and free of ego. He trusted his actors and his crew, often shooting scenes in a minimal number of takes. This approach not only kept his films on budget and on schedule, but also fostered an environment where actors felt empowered to deliver authentic, naturalistic performances. This stripped-down, efficient style was most evident in his westerns, a genre he returned to with a director's eye.
Films like High Plains Drifter, 1973, and The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, were not just conventional westerns. They were meditations on violence, revenge, and the moral ambiguity of the frontier. Eastwood, the director, was not interested in glorifying violence. Instead, he presented it as a brutal and often ugly necessity, a direct result of the harsh world his characters inhabited. This was a direct extension of the themes he explored as an actor with Sergio Leone, but now he was in full control of the narrative. As the years went on, Eastwood continued to defy expectations, tackling a wide range of genres. He helmed romantic dramas like The Bridges of Madison County, a film that stunned audiences by showcasing a deeply emotional and vulnerable side of the man who had long been the epitome of toughness. The film was a critical darling and a box office hit, proving that his directorial talent extended far beyond the action and western genres he was known for. But it was in the twilight of his career that he delivered his masterpiece, a film that served as a perfect summation of his career both in front and behind the camera. Unforgiven, 1992, was a western that tore down the very myths he had helped create. In this film, Eastwood plays William Money, a retired gunman who is a shadow of his former self, aging, frail, and plagued by a haunted past. The film is a brutal and unflinching deconstruction of the Western hero. It exposes the romanticism of violence as a lie and reveals the true ugly cost of taking a life. The Unforgiven was a watershed moment. It won the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director, an honor that he had long eluded him. The film was a profound statement from a filmmaker who had always valued authenticity over spectacle. It was a western made by a man who understood the genre intimately, but also had the courage to tell the true, dark story that lay beneath the surface of the myths. Clint Eastwood, the director, broke the rules not with grand gestures, but with quiet defiance. He rejected the bloated excesses of Hollywood, choosing instead a lean, disciplined approach to filmmaking. He directed with a respect for his craft and an unwavering focus on the story. He became a cinematic elder statesman, a master of his art, who proved that a director's true power lies not in their ability to command a massive budget, but in their capacity to tell a simple, powerful story with integrity and vision. His directorial legacy is a testament to the fact that to truly win in Hollywood, one must not only stand apart, but stand on their own terms.
The unstoppable master. As the 21st century dawned, most of Clint Eastwood's contemporaries had long since retired. The icons of his generation had faded from the screen, content with their legacies. But Clint Eastwood was different. He was not just an actor who directed, he was becoming a cinematic force, an unstoppable master of his craft. He entered the new millennium with a renewed vigor, producing and directing a string of films that solidified his status as one of Hollywood's most prolific and respected filmmakers. His approach to filmmaking remained consistent: tight schedules, minimal takes, and an unwavering focus on story and character. This disciplined old-school methodology allowed him to churn out films at a rate unheard of for a man in his 70s and 80s. He was a machine of efficiency, proving that great cinema didn't require bloated budgets or endless production cycles. This artistic resurgence was marked by a series of films that earned him the kind of critical accolation few artists ever achieve. The 2000s were a particularly golden period. He started the decade by directing and starring in the ensemble space adventure Space Cowboys 2000, a film that, while lighthearted, spoke to the theme of aging heroes given one last chance at glory. But it was his next two films that would truly define his mastery. In Mystic River 2003, Eastwood stepped entirely behind the camera, directing a searing crime drama with a powerhouse cast. The film was a dark, complex exploration of trauma, fate, and the bonds of friendship. It was a critical and commercial triumph, earning him multiple Academy Award nominations. He followed this with $1 Million Baby, 2004, a poignant and tragic tale of a female boxer and her grizzled trainer. The film was a knockout, winning the Academy Awards for Best Picture and Best Director, cementing his legacy as a two-time Oscar-winning filmmaker. It was a powerful, emotionally devastating film that showcased his ability to draw out deeply moving performances and tell a heartbreaking story with simple, brutal elegance. His films in the latter half of the decade continued to surprise. In a remarkable creative feat, he directed 2 companion films about the Battle of Iwo Jima, Flags of Our Fathers, 2006, and Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006. The first told the story from the American perspective, while the second, filmed entirely in Japanese, offered the Japanese perspective. This 2-film approach was a daring, unprecedented move, and it was a testament to his ambition as a storyteller. Letters from Iwo Jima was a critical sensation, earning him another Best Director nomination. Eastwood's films from this era often explored themes of redemption, mortality, and the complex nature of heroism. In Gran Torino 2008, he returned to the screen in a performance that felt like a powerful final statement on his tough guy persona. He played a bitter, xenophobic war veteran who, in a stunning act of redemption, sacrifices himself for his immigrant neighbors. The film was a box office smash and a fitting culmination of his on-screen anti-hero legacy. Even as he approached and surpassed the age of 90, Eastwood's creative engine showed no signs of slowing down. He continued to direct and star in powerful dramas like The Mule, 2018, and direct compelling biographical films like American Sniper, 2014, and Sully, 2016. These films were all united by his signature style, a classic, unpretentious approach to storytelling that puts the focus squarely on character and moral complexity. Clint Eastwood's later career is a masterclass in artistic longevity and evolution. He did not become a cinematic master by following trends. He did so by staying true to his own vision and his own instincts. He is a testament to the idea that with discipline, integrity, and a relentless work ethic, an artist can continue to create powerful and relevant work well into the twilight of their years. He is not just an icon of a bygone era, he is a timeless force of nature, a true, unstoppable master of American cinema.
The last line. From the dusty plains of a spaghetti western to the director's chair of an Oscar-winning masterpiece, Clint Eastwood's career is a singular achievement in cinematic history. He didn't just adapt to the changing landscape of Hollywood, he reshaped it. The man who began as an outsider, a silent rebel in a poncho, ended up as an unstoppable master, directing and starring in some of the most enduring films of the last half-century. His legacy is not just in the iconic roles he played or the awards he won. It is in his fierce independence, his unwavering commitment to his craft, and his belief that a good story, told simply and honestly, will always resonate. Clint Eastwood didn't just leave his mark on the silver screen. He became a living, breathing part of it. The final line of his story is not yet written, but it's clear that it will be a testament to a career defined by a quiet dignity and a relentless pursuit of artistic excellence.